Santa María, Santa María.
Luz y progreso, honor and respects. This is your host, Sancista Brujo Luis. I know I have not done a video in 2 weeks. I want to apologize to all my YouTube subscribers. I have been busy. I have been traveling. I went to Connecticut last week, Connecticut, New Jersey, New York, and we ended up in Pennsylvania. Now, before I go further, I want to thank Jeremy, my godson Jeremy, and Yvette. Thank you guys so much for, going on this travel with me. And to the mediums and the espiritistas in what's the name of the temple? I am going to forget the name of the temple. Being One Spiritual Center, to the head medium, Diana, to Ileana, and I forgot the names. Luz y progreso, honor and respects. This is your host, Sancista Brujo Luis. I want to say thank you. First of all, I want to apologize to all my YouTube subscribers. I have not been able to do a video for the past 2 weeks. I have been so busy. Last week, I was traveling. First of all, before I go any further, I want to thank my godson Jeremy and his cousin Yvette, Goldie. Thank you guys for going along that road trip with me. We went from Connecticut to New York. From New York, we went to New Jersey, and from New Jersey, we went to Pennsylvania, where I was doing a class on espiritismo in a spiritual center. It is called, I think the center, and I'm sorry, I'll put the name down below if I mess it up. I'm pretty sure I'm going to mess it up, but it's Being One Spiritual Center. The head presidente de mesa is Diana, and her daughters Leslie and, oh my God, Ileana. Almost forgot those names. So I want to say thanks to all the mediums from that temple. When we were there, this is in Pennsylvania. I didn't think there were any Puerto Ricans or Latinos in Pennsylvania. But when we were there, I was asked to do a discussion on pases espirituales, which are healing of laying of the hands, and also to do Mesa Blanca, as we do in Puerto Rico. So I want to say thank you to all the mediums who participated. It was a beautiful experience. God bless your temple. Thank you guys for having us there. And I also want to say thank you very much to Jackie, Santiago, and Miguel for letting us stay in your most beautiful home. You guys were awesome. I appreciate it. And so it was an awesome trip. I wish I had recorded it. I didn't record it. And also the reason why I have not been able to do more videos is because when I came back, I was busy. I had clients, and it was just kept stacking up and stacking up. So now I got a moment to do a video for you guys. And so I decided to do a simple video, and I'm going to do a book review today. And the book that I'm going to review is called Spiritual Tales, okay? Inspired by Spirit, black and white. And I don't know if I can get that glare out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a picture of the book right there. So the book is titled Spiritual Tales, Inspired by Spirits in Black and White. The author, her name is Carmen F Cordova. She is a Puerto Rican espiritista. The book, I picked this up when I was going to go on my journey, on my trip throughout these states. And I said, this is something that I'm going to read. I didn't get a chance to read it. But she is a Puerto Rican espiritista. She practices Mesa Blanca spiritism. This book is beautiful, and so I didn't get a chance to read it. Now, first of all, people are going to ask me, where can I pick this book up? You can pick up this book on Amazon.com. I think it's like $14, $13.99, $12.99, $13.99. It's 234 pages or so, 234 pages. It has, I don't even know how many stories it has. I read this book so it has 11 stories plus one ending note. I read this book literally in 24 hours. Now, usually as you get older, you start reading a book and it's like you get bored. You've read it all before. This was a really beautiful book, and I don't want to spoil too much. So what I'm going to do is talk to you a little bit about each of the stories that are in this book. Trust me, this is Puerto Rican espiritismo or espiritismo, the way it's just a beautiful story, or beautiful stories. And it's not just only about espiritismo, but it's also stories about the spirits. Trust me, it's a beautiful book. Now, when we talk about Mesa Blanca espiritismo, we have to understand that in Puerto Rico and in Cuba and Venezuela and all these Latin American countries where espiritismo is practiced, a lot of the Christian doctrine is incorporated within espiritismo. We view Jesus or Jesus Christ or the Rabbi Yeshua as an ascended master who we as an espiritista, or spiritists, we strive to be as this man, to show love, to show compassion, to show mercy. So anyways, this book has a lot of Christian undertones. And if you're not into Christianity, if that bothers you, then this might be a book that you might pass. But if you want to learn about spirits and espiritismo within our Caribbean, Cuban, Puerto Rican practices, then this would be a beautiful book. This is not a book on how to learn espiritismo. This is a book on short stories. And so I definitely recommend. So I'm going to leave a little bio on Carmen, or the author. She is the author of this book, but she is also a painter. She's got the most beautiful, she does the most beautiful painting. And I'm also gonna, in the description, leave a link to her webpage so you can guys go check her out. Her art is very beautiful. So I'm gonna give you a short description of each of the stories. I don't wanna spoil too much, but I give you a short description of each story. There are 12 stories within this book, but the first one is titled, and within the book, you're gonna see art throughout the book. Okay, the first one is titled Negativity, a love story. Now, this story has to do with the three sisters, Fe, Esperanza, y Caridad, faith, hope, and charity. And they have a fourth sister. Her name is Negativity. And Negativity falls in love with Lucifer. And then Lucifer disappears, and the Negativity, who was just like faith, hope, and charity, a good sister, she becomes very dark. And then there's a mission in Earth where the three sisters, faith, hope, and charity, go to Earth, and Negativity didn't want to go. She didn't want to go. Finally, she's convinced to go. She thinks, maybe I'll find Lucifer in the Earth. So she goes to the Earth with the sisters. She finds a Lucifer. Lucifer tells her this long story of how he has become the king or the Lord of the earth, and she vows her love for him, and she becomes his companion. So I don't want to give you too much of the story, but it is very beautiful. And like I said, there is pictures throughout the book. You can see there's one picture right there, and these are all done by the artist. I want to show you some of the nicer pictures. And there is Lucifer and the sister Negativity. So really interesting story, and I liked it. That's how the book starts. Now the second story is titled Mary, Mother of Humanity. And like I said, you can see there's a picture on each chapter. And this one is self-explanatory. It is about the Virgin Mary and how she watched her son during his time when he was being brought to the Calvary to get crucified, and the suffering that Mary had to go through at that moment. So that is the second part of the book. The third story is titled The Final Battle Between Good and Evil. And it is a story about the two brothers, Michael, Saint Michael, and Lucifer, or Satan, where his name transforms, I think, in this story. And it's just that battle and how Lucifer, or Satan, or Satan, is thrown into the abyss, where he becomes the Lord of the abyss. Okay? And this story reads kind of like Greek mythology. It was really, really beautiful. Actually, most of these stories read like Greek mythology. Really good stories. The fourth story is titled, He is Watching Us. Very beautiful story. It is about this man who goes into a Southern Baptist church. He attends the sermon and he likes it. And then the following day, he goes into a spiritualist temple. He goes into a Hindu temple. The day after that, he goes into a Buddhist temple. So on and so on and so forth, until one day he meets the pastor of the Baptist church. And it goes on to describe that the pastor is like, why haven't you come back to sermon? And the gentleman says, I've just been going to different churches. I went to the Spiritist Center. I went to the Hindu temple. I went to the Buddhist temple. And so the pastor, they have this disagreement, and I'm not going to get too deep into that. And again, it's a really beautiful story. And that one is titled, He is Watching Us. And I really enjoyed that one a lot. The fifth story is titled, what is this fifth story? Spirit Attachment. And you can see the picture right there. Like I said, all the pictures are painted by the author of this book. I'm going to leave her link down below. Go check out her art. It is beautiful. She's a Puerto Rican espiritista. The spirit attachment in Puerto Rico, in espiritismo, we call an attachment un espíritu de causa, or un espíritu de causa, or un espíritu de existencia, okay, which is usually a lower level spirit. So anyways, the story starts off with this young girl, I forgot her name, who has been having recurring nightmares. And she tells her mother, and her mother doesn't really pay her no mind to it, until one day her sister, who happens to be an espiritista, or a medium, forces the mother and the daughter to go to a mesa blanca, or, you know, a spiritual session, seance, or velada. And there, one of the mediums tells the mother of the young girl that she has this spiritual attachment. The mother, of course, ignores this. She thinks espiritismo is all foolishness. The mother doesn't really believe it in people contacting the world of spirit. So anyways, the story goes on that this little girl grows up. She gets married. I don't want to spoil too much of the story. That doesn't go well. And as she gets older, she goes back into the temple, and she finds out that this spiritual attachment is still with her, has been with her her whole life, has been one of the reasons why she has had a lot of trials and tribulations throughout this life. So they work this spirit, from this young lady, and then she becomes also a medium within the temple. So that one is titled Spiritual Attachments. They also talk about las paces. Paces is something that we do in espiritismo for spiritual healing. And when I was in Pennsylvania, we did some paces, for the people that were there. So that is also described in the story. And that was a really beautiful story, because sometimes spirits from past life, our errors from our past lives can follow us into this life, and they can plague us within this life. So that is what that story is about. And they're pretty long stories. Story number 6 is titled The Messenger. Okay, and I think it takes place in India. I could be wrong. I think it was in India. And it's about a girl with special, yes, because there's Mother Durga right there. Okay, so this takes place in India, and it's about this young girl who has the spiritual faculty or the spiritual abilities of healing. She's a healer. And she also has biolocation. Biolocation is the spiritual gift of being in two places at one time. Usually that happens when a medium's sleeping and the spirit can go, or the medium can be meditating as well, and the spirit goes to heal or to pray or to whatever it needs to do. So this is the story about, I think her name was Tara, and how she heals a lot of people from death, from illnesses, and then so she becomes this really well-known medium or healer within her village. People come from far away. Her popularity grows until a hateful group of religious fanatics call her a witch. And of course well, this picture is going to say it all right there. They label her a witch. And sadly to say, they burn Tara alive. I don't want to go too further into that. And so, yes, a lot of espiritistas or mediums have been burnt in the stake for being brujos, which is what I've known as witches, okay? Most espiritistas recognize that they are brujos, but they call themselves brujo blancos or white witches, which is their practice only healing and removing negativity and removing black magic and all that. So anyways, that was that story, which is titled The Messenger. And it is a really beautiful, I like that story. It was a really good story. And how she was burnt because of her spiritual faculties, because of her spiritual gifts, and she was labeled a witch. Similar to Joan of Arc, the Catholic saint Joan of Arc, who was also burnt for being labeled a witch. So remember, I'm trying not to ruin the stories. So I'm just giving you a quick rough down of each story. The next one, story number 7, is titled Bartolo, Spirit Guide. And this is about an African spirit. His name is Bartolo. And there's another picture. And he is the guardian spirit of a medium who practices Mesa Blanca. And Bartolo, the story takes place in a Mesa Blanca or a spiritual center setting where they ask Bartolo, which is this spirit guide here, who he was during his last incarnation in life. And so Bartolo talks about who he was in Africa, how he was raised by a family. I think his grandfather was a healer, how he was initiated as a healer. I think he was also initiated into a priesthood. I don't remember. And so then after he passes on, he takes on the role of becoming a principal spirit guide to a medium. So this one is titled Bartolo, Spirit Guide, and that was really good. And I like this story because he likes to smoke his tabacos, and sometimes you will see spirits in Mesa Blanca. They will ask for their tabaco, or they have their certain perfumes or stuff that they may have enjoyed in life. So that's about how Bartolo speaks about who he was in his life, how he was taught to be a healer. He was taught to learn herbs, and after his physical death, how he was trained to be a spirit guide for a medium. And that one is, I think, was story number 7, Bartolo, Spirit Guide. Chapter 8 is titled What Goes Around Comes Around. And this is the story about a young boy. It starts off with as a young boy. His name is Tom. And how his father teaches him a really, quote-unquote, valuable lesson, which really is not a valuable lesson whatsoever. Tom grows up to become this very cruel person. He treats everyone very cruel during this story, and he places a lot of emphasis on material wealth, which reminds me of a lot of quote-unquote spiritualists today, where they're more materialists than spiritualists, you know, and we have to separate those two words. There's a lot of materialists out there. But anyways, Tom becomes this materialist. He treats everyone who he sees less than him as below him. So I don't want to go too far into the story, but there's one part of the story where I don't want to spoil too much. Where is it? But when I got to this part, I had to stop because I don't know if you can see the waves right there. It was, to me, they were moving, and I was like, whoa, and I couldn't concentrate on this page because my eyes kept going back to this scene right here. And so he goes through this guy goes through this, he dies, and he goes into this dark abyss, like limbo, purgatory state, which is similar to hell. He hears people suffering. He sees demonic entities, and occasionally spirits of light come to check up on him. Okay. And then after this time of purging, the spirit of light removes Tom out of this place. And what's beautiful about this story is that he meets all these spirits who are in this realm above him at this stage, who are very kind towards him, and who he in life actually mistreated. And so that was a really beautiful story and a very important lesson that we as spiritual people should study or should meditate on. So one of the stories out of the book that is a little too creepy, not creepy, it was just too disturbing, was titled The Journey. Okay, and when I was younger, I was into H.P. Lovecraft, Edgar Allan Poe, Alfred Hitchcock, and I love The Twilight Zone. This kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you guys saw it, but it reminds me of that. This story is called, it's kind of, there's just some scenes that are very, and I don't want to spoil it, but it's about this spirit who's on it is about a spirit who's on a road, on a deserted road to nowhere, and she meets this individual who's meditating. Looks like the Buddhist figure, a spirit of light, and she meets the spirit, and the spirit brings her to this place of happiness, of gold and pleasure and material wealth and desires and all that. And it just goes from there. It just goes into, it just gets dark and dark and dark. And I was like, ooh. But then that spirit goes from the dark back into the light, and I don't want to explain it too much, but it was really dark. It reminded me of H.P. Lovecraft, or more Edgar Allan Poe, I guess. Something that you would see probably in The Twilight Zone. And this story, I mean, I liked it when I was younger. I was into it. As I'm getting older, it's like, whoa, it was a little too much for me. It's gonna be might be a little bit too much for some readers. There were just some scenes that when I read things, I'm very visual, and what I visualized as I was reading this story were very disturbing to my mind. But the story was, it was good. It was just disturbing. Some of the scenes that I read, when I read, I visualize. It's like a movie playing in my mind. And some of the scenes that I read in that story were too much. So we're getting into the last stories of the book, and the next one is titled Greed. I don't know if you can see the picture right there. Short summary of the story. This is about a man who's very poor, who lives very hungry, and this gentleman appears to him and says, listen, I want you to be the caretaker of my rancho, my land, and I want you to treat my workers with this way, and I want you to give my workers so and so. And so the man doesn't understand why he's doing this, so he agrees. The owner of the land disappears, doesn't come back for 3-4 years, I guess, and this man, who was a poor man, and now he's running this farm, and of course this man, the owner of the rancho, never comes. He doesn't show up for 3 years, and so this man becomes very greedy and mistreats all the workers of the land, where he begins to starve them to death. And It goes from rags to riches, back to rags, and then it's a story of forgiveness. So I didn't want to spoil that one too much, but that was that story. The final story in this book is titled Love Thy Mother. Very touching story. It is about the love of a mother to her children and how a mother loves unconditionally her children. And then, of course, what do we do in society as our parents get older? We tend to shun them. We tend to push them away. We tend to want to put them in nursing homes. We forget about them, not realizing that they need love, that they are our mothers, and what we do to our parents will someday come back to us. I don't want to go too far into that story. It was a really touching story, and it's titled Love Thy Mother. You know, how we treat our parents will come back to us, you know, someday, especially if the parent is loving and giving to us. And then as they get older, we tend to forget about them. If you have a mother, don't forget your mother, and remember that she sacrificed a lot for you, you know. So that was the last story of that book, of this book. Now, to end the book, this is not more so a story as more an open letter. It seems like the author, Carmen, channeled the voice of God or her higher spirit guides through, you know, their messengers of God, espíritus de luz, spirits of light. And so it's like an open letter from God to the reader of the book. And it was really a beautiful way to end the book. Again, I love the art within this book. And I just was happy that she ended this book with this open letter. Remember that this book she is a Puerto Rican espiritista. Carmen Cordova is a Puerto Rican espiritista. And so the stories within here are based or influenced on spiritism or spiritualism as it is viewed in Puerto Rico or in Cuba and other parts of the world. But being that she's Puerto Rican, a lot of her influence are very Christian, as we view Jesucristo, Jesus Christ, as an ascended master. And so within our books of prayers, you will always often see an image of Jesus. So if that bothers you, you know, the Judeo-Christian belief systems or stuff within espiritismo, then espiritismo or spiritism is not for you. But if that doesn't bother you and you do participate or practice espiritismo or spiritism, as we do in Puerto Rico, Cuba, Venezuela, Mexico, Colombia, Ecuador, this would be all Latin America, Brazil, okay, Brazil, the number one spiritist nation in the world, then this book is for you. These books are, in Spanish, they're abundant, you know, books like this with stories like this. And I hope that more authors write books like this. And this might, hey, maybe one day I might write a book like this, because a lot of mediums need books like this. So anyways, great book. And you can pick it up in Amazon.com. I think it was $13.99, $14. So to end the story, Carmen F Cordova is there's a description of who she is in the back of the book. She is a counselor and a psychologist. She graduated, I guess, from Columbus University. I'm just going to show you a picture of what it says right there. And she is also a spiritist. She does, her webpage is beautiful. It has beautiful art, beautiful stories. Check this book out. It's a really good read. I read this in 24 hours. Usually I get bored of books very quickly. You get bored at a certain age. Check this out. It's only $13, $14, I think it was, at Amazon.com. Go pick it up. I highly recommend it. Go down into the link below. Check out her website. She's got beautiful art, beautiful prints that you could probably purchase, and check out this book. We need more books like this. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like, subscribe if you have not subscribed, and smash that notification bell button to get notifications of when I do future videos. All right, this is Sancista Brujo Luis. I'm making this video too long. Santo Sanse, lo quiero mucho. Ciao. Ciao, 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 ciao. Ciao.